good morning, especially to my guests. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are at this moment when watching this podcast. Thank you for joining. This is episode number 5 with my esteemed guests from mainly Canada, Funeral 365. Again, this podcast is about Business Central ISVs. Today we have definitely a ISV that has not only built on Dynamics 365 Business Central, but has also what I would call embedded Dynamics into its solution. We have Benoit from Montreal. I just relearned, Benoit, thank you for joining Jean-François in Florida, sunny Florida, I guess.
Yes,
at least sunnier than, well, although in Belgium at the moment it's also quite sunny. And then Eric, normally in Atlanta, but I just learned that you are in Detroit at the moment. Very, very welcome to this podcast. Again, thank you very much for joining. And Eric, thank you for reaching out a couple of weeks ago. Very much appreciated. Just to start things off, Benoit, Jean-François, Eric, please let the audience know who you are, what you do within Funeral 365, and also, please, if you can high level explain the solution of Funeral 365, although I think that the naming already says a lot, but I think it's much more than just a funeral. There's a lot of complexities with Funeral 365 as well. We see that with Eric's background, procurement, inventory, warehousing. But Benoit, let's start with you. Thank you again.
Sure, thank you, Igmar. So basically, we built that funeral solution about 3 years ago.
But who are you, Benoit? Sorry, who are you?
Oh, thanks. So I'm Benoit, CEO of ERA Consulting Group and Funeral 65. And the link between ERA Consulting Group and Funeral 65, ERA is the value-add reseller, Microsoft Business Central value-add reseller that built that solution for the funeral industry. So basically, just a little background about ERA. We are based in Canada, implementing the Navision and BC solutions since 20 years now. We're celebrating our 20 years this year. We have about 140 customers, mainly manufacturing, distribution, and some companies in the service area. And I bought the company about 8 years ago. And when I bought the company, the goal was to create a solution, a vertical solution to go to a larger market than just the Quebec and Canada market. So we seek a couple of opportunity in different industry. We look at real estate, we look at employment with hiring and all that stuff around HR. And then finally, we got that opportunity about 7 years ago, somewhere in California. And the people were saying, we're seeking for an ERP system since about 8-9 years. We could not find anything in that space. And then we got another opportunity in Montreal, and then the guys were saying the same. So we said, okay, this is our target here. So we just hired Jean-François about 4 years now, Jean-François, about 4 years ago.
Just 4 years.
Yeah, Jean-François got about 30 years of experience on the funeral industry. He owned 3 funeral homes in Quebec, and he knows really how it works. So we designed the whole solution with Jean-François. And basically, we built it over BC. So the goal was not to have 2 different systems. Even within BC, we don't have anything to manage the contract, was the art of all this funeral management system. So the contract for pre-needs contract, at-needs contract, the cemetery contract was really specific. So at the beginning, we say, okay, maybe we're going to purchase a company doing that, and then we're going to turn it into BC. But finally, it was more forms than anything else. So we built all that functionality over BC. So basically, let's say the beneficiary card has about 400 fields that wasn't available in BC. So we created all those fields and all the functionality behind, and then we create the contract and everything. But everything is sitting on BC. Then, because of the user experience, funeral director are not accountants, so the look and feel of the accounting package was a little different, and the way they enter a contract, it's really by different area of different subjects. So let's say what kind of care you want, what kind of ceremony you want. You could start from one to the other, so it doesn't feel as we feel any sales order. So we recreate everything within development tools to be able to get some more flexibility in the contract. So we have built really the first call, where it's kind of the CRM, where they receive the call and then schedule it with a funeral, schedule the appointment with the funeral director for, or an interview for the pre-needs, or an interview for somebody deceased, and then we need to plan all the area. So we build the pre-needs, the at-needs, the cemetery contract, the interment contract, everything regarding the cemetery, because it's inventory management within BC. So what do we do for cemetery management? So we created kind of a warehouse where you have location, sub-location, and then maintain the availability and everything.
So a cemetery is a warehouse.
It's kind of a warehouse, you're right. And
no, I know it's not a warehouse, but that's how you define it within the warehouse functionality.
Yeah,
defining a cemetery.
Yeah, and every contract, it's a job or new name project right now, since Microsoft just rebranded the job module. So basically, every contract is a project. So if you sign a contract, you could have resources affected to that contract. You could have items and cost and everything. So all the container was there to fulfill the requirements of the funeral industry. It's just that we rebuilt the user experience to be easier or more adapted to the funeral industry.
Yeah.
So again, everything related on the contract itself. Then we redone planning. So it's sitting on the planning of the project module, but we add all the drag and drop functionality for the driver to get the deceased. Then they have Google Map where they could track the optimized route and everything. So we also designed the cemetery to be more visual, and then we build kind of several portals for drivers to receive their tasks, because it's not only tasks, they're receiving tasks, but they have to sign up with the family, sign up with the coroner, or signing for the deceased of the body and everything like that. So there is regular tasks, there is authorization and signature on the portal. So all that stuff being designed with the connected to BC, and all the air information is again real time. So it's pretty quite large what we built around BC, but the heart of that, it's really BC. So thanks for the flexibility of this product. We've been working on that product for 20 years. It's fabulous, everything you can do. So we are really using everything right now.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. Also the product introduction. I've looked also the videos that Eric shared 2 weeks ago. It's really beautiful solution, and then it's not, for me, it's not anymore Business Central. It's really Funeral 365, built using the development capabilities of Business Central. That's how I get at your solution. But Benoit, you mentioned already the name of Jean-François. Jean-François, you're, I think, like how should I say it?
The mastermind.
The mastermind of product architecture. Is that correct? How I describe you?
Well, I am the one in the team that has the knowledge about the funeral industry. So I was in that industry since, I guess, my last year at university. So that many years ago. So about 30 years. And then after that, I taught at college about, again, the mortuary college. 2 different ones, and I joined ERA, as Benoit mentioned, because they were looking to build a vertical around the funeral industry, and there's not that much that already exists. Funeral industry doesn't use a lot of technology, so we can offer them something that they don't use already, and offers a lot of possibilities. The funeral industry is a sector that has a lot of regulation. So there's a lot of things to take care of, and that solution can help them making sure that everything is done the right way, the right procedure, the company procedure and everything. So yeah, we have and I think we're maybe the only solution that has at the same time manage contract, manage operation, and manage finance.
Yeah. It's also, when we were talking, I think about 2 weeks ago, that I started to realize how broad a funeral business is, how much different buckets, if I can call it like that, how much needs to be taken care of from project management, from a sales perspective, from a warehouse perspective, from a stock perspective. So it's much more complex than a layman like me would or realizes about this business. but yeah, there's much more behind it than.
You're right. Even the financial, Ingmar, we built kind of a financial package where, because those companies are sometimes financing their customers. So let's say you want to do a pre-arrangement and then you need to finance it on 10 years, 5 years. So we built a module to be able to manage the interest. If people don't pay 1 month, then they will recalculate and everything. And there is also a notion of trust. So when you buy a pre-arrangement or pre-need contract, then maybe you're going to decease in 30 years, 40 years from now, but you pay it in 10 years. So that money has to be somewhere safe, so in a trust. But during that time, you get interest. So we built a system to be able to manage all the interest you're getting from the trust and all the value of, let's say, casket earned in your, because if you use it in 20 years, of course, they're not keeping the one in stock for 30 years. So they're going to purchase the latest, but the value is not
super interesting. Yeah.
So we have to, so it's kind of a bank at some point.
Yeah, of course.
We're getting some money up front and then keeping it for many years, could be 30, 40 years. So we also built a lot of module on BC around the financial. So yeah, you're right. It's pretty wide in terms of functionality.
Eric, we have talked, but you haven't, you've just listened in to what Benoit and Jean-François were saying. You're at the moment in Detroit. Normally you're based in Atlanta. We were the first connection, you were the first connection for me into Funeral 365. Your backgrounds, we talked about sales and marketing, but that's indeed your background, I believe. But please introduce yourself and what you do exactly within Funeral 365.
Again, Eric Banks, and I'm working with the sales and sales strategy for Funeral 365. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for your vision in creating this podcast. And secondly, to Benoit and Jean-François for having the audacity to want to revolutionize an industry. Definitely. Rarely do you get a second bite at the apple. In 2000, Y2K, for those who were in technology then, it was a major turning point in advancing very, very dormant, stagnant, antiquated industries. Manufacturing, construction still lags behind, right? But Y2K, that event brought them forward into what we have now as far as efficiency in operation. Going forward now, the opportunity is when you see what's going on in the death care space. It's very similar to what happened in Y2K. The pandemic situation forced this industry to modernize in certain areas. But what Benoit and Jean-François saw is the opportunity to take that value further. So when you look at Funeral 365 from a financial perspective, what you really should be considering are 6 key areas. One would be cash flow management. The other would be receivables, inventory, which we handle up on the chart on this side of the screen. And on the other side of the equation, you'll have accounts receivable, long-term debt management, and payroll. So Funeral 365 is the only solution that manages all of these major elements across a global footprint.
And so, I think also because of maybe the how do you say this? You're covering every aspect of the funeral business. And when we were talking, Jean-François, Benoit, Eric, a couple of weeks ago, I thought, to be honest, like, hey, you're going to be active in Canada, North America, but you're even active, or you have customers in Belgium, or the country where I'm based in. So your customers are really are very geographical spread. Can you, Benoit, or Eric, or Jean-François, talk a bit about that? How the expansion came? Is it like natural? Is it people are looking for you? They find you on a website, app stores? Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, if I may, Eric, and maybe you complete the answer. So basically, when we started the project about 4 years ago, we invested about 3,000 man days to build the product at the beginning, and then we're still investing a lot. We just got a new investment of about 7.5 million on that product. So we are putting a lot of energy. So before going to market, like any developer of product developments, we build the MVP. With the minimal viable product, we went to the market, to different shows, trade shows all around the globe. But in fact, I say all around the world, all around US, we'll say. So there is a few big events across the US that regroup all the funeral directors from all around the world, basically. Okay. So we built that big booth, and showing the product with Microsoft logos and everything. And the first year, people was like, okay, who are you? What are you doing? And so they were learning a little bit more. And then after 2-3 years, they were like, oh, we seen you somewhere, or we seen your information about your company. Could we have a demo? And okay, we heard that company starts with you guys. So what are you doing exactly? And all that stuff. And those shows bring a lot of leads all across the globe. So we have leads right now effectively in Belgium, large consolidator being companies who purchase many funeral homes, a few in America, South America, and a few in Australia. So we have now leads all around the globe, and we realize when we do demos that the funeral industry is pretty similar all around the globe. So the good news is that we could implement Business Central. We could work with other Business Central reseller to put all the localization, and then all the funeral module are pretty similar from one country to the others. We were surprised, but even different religion, it's pretty much the same kind of, let's say, steps in the process. Yeah. So it fits pretty much anywhere in the world.
And also, maybe we can say, Benoit, that even if there's difference, the system is enough flexible to adapt to any different tradition, any different culture. So because sometimes funeral are a lot around the belief system or traditional cultural system, and the system can handle that. So even if there's a place that handles things a little bit differently or even a lot differently, the system can handle that because it has been built to be adaptable to any way or fashion or everything.
Yeah. Did I understand, Benoit, that you're saying you're also working with partners or Dynamics partners in other countries that are reselling and implementing your solution?
Yeah, again, it's new solution. So let's understand that we just released the version about 7 months ago. So we're doing a big implementation from one of the big 5 consolidator in the US since then. So it's a large implementation. And even yesterday, we were speaking with a Microsoft reseller that been in, help me, heard of it, Eric?
El
Salvador for about 30 years, something like that. And it was like, okay, we met with that customer, we present BC, but it was looking something more vertical, want to do RFPs and stuff like that. And I say, RFPs in that industry, you don't have the knowledge. Nobody has the knowledge of building the whole thing because it's kind of new. So we turn it around a little bit, do presentation with, the funeral 65 as is, so people knows how it works, and then bias their purchasing process to be more aligned with the best practices that BC is bringing. Also, the funeral module that is sitting on that best practices that I consider also as best practices because, we are already using the model from BC itself. So yes, we can definitively work with other around the world and use their knowledge of the product. Again, it's 70% BC basically. It's all the base inventory, base project module, all the finance and everything with localization, and then it's intrusive. It's not like goes over BC because we have I don't know how many thousands of objects that have been developed, but again, like on any other ISV, it's built over BC, and we just built it about 3 years ago with the latest version of extension and everything. So easy to upgrade, easy to maintain, so it works really well. We're glad we started that about 3 years ago because 10 years ago the technology
was very true. Yeah.
And then we'll have to rebuild everything, I guess, or redesign. So we have the latest technology. We're really working with Copilot right now, Ingmar.
So that was one of my next question. So you said, you started like 3 years ago. Indeed, innovation is going very fast in this industry, and that's independent of Microsoft. I think just the pace of innovation is just happening.
Yeah.
Look at look at the Googles, the Amazons, the IBMs of this world. Innovation is happening. If Microsoft would disappear, innovation would not stop. It would just continue accelerating. Now, from a business application perspective, there are several ways on how you can innovate. What I'm always intrigued about is, how do you decide where you will innovate and how you will innovate? Do you have like a process that you talk with your customers? Is it based on your knowledge of the industry? I'm looking at Jean-François here. Eric, maybe from you, from sales, talking with customers. Benoit, your holistic perspective. So how do you decide where to innovate and how to innovate?
So you also start, go ahead, Jean-François.
What I was thinking that it's a little bit of everything. You need to stay in touch with customer to know what their challenges are and to adapt to meet their needs. You also need to be aware of what is happening in this industry. So you need always to be to search and to read and everything that's happening. And there's also, and Eric maybe can talk more about that, but all the partners in which we are talking with that can also influence, I would say, us because there's many partners in that industry too.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So I was to say, it's information from everywhere. We are in the ERA right now, where there's so many opportunities that you have to decide which one you want to go after, because never been as much opportunity that it is right now on the market. We went to a direction, we go to a direction every years, and last time it was AI, and I was like, okay, what could we do with AI? And then coming back from the from direction, we were working on the express version, so a version where you use only the contract and it's implemented in 3-4 days, which is straightforward. And then we were looking to build kind of a platform where people could auto-learn the system, so a self-learning platform. And then we seen Copilot, and we say, okay, why don't we put a chatbot? So from the platform itself, from the chatbot, you say, I would like to enter a new contract for pre-needs on that region, and then the system built the training itself. So we pulled on the a repository all the information, all the training material, and it's really Copilot who's building the final material. Yeah, so we're doing it right now. So it's we started 3 months ago with that project of Copilot, and it works really well. So we haven't built a division or created a division for innovation, doing e-commerce and custom development, but mainly AI. So it's pretty fun, and the goal is really to leverage the latest technology on everything we do.
Super insightful, Benoit. Thank you, Jean-François. I think, Eric, did you want to say? I think you wanted to say something, maybe from a sales perspective.
Oh, I just think that one of the major opportunities and challenges will be this market is very fragmented. And when I say it's fragmented, I'm speaking of the customer base. It's fragmented in the sense that they work together very well as association, but as far as there being a single voice or thought leadership in this industry, it really goes back to the late 90s, early 2000s, right? So what we're speaking about is not only external collaboration across the industry, but having the customer understand the value of collaborating within their own enterprise. So we're seeing the very traditional silos across departments. We're seeing the lack of information sharing. It's exactly verbatim what it was 20 plus years ago with Y2K. So I think the opportunity for us is to educate, but also the level of awareness has to be raised, because there isn't really an impending event to force a CEO or owner of operation to spend X hundreds or millions of dollars today. Because what happens is, because money is coming in, you think everything is okay. So I think in the US particularly, you're blinded by their success because money's still flowing with or without our system, right? But internationally, we're seeing a different mindset. They haven't been spoiled by the successes of America, and they're eager for technology. And we're seeing actually more movement and desire to advance and build processes outside the US because they just don't have a legacy of infrastructure, old ways of doing things.
Super interesting. So, well, very interesting also to hear about Copilot, Benoit. So you mentioned the chat functionality with creating a contract.
Yeah.
Do you see any other innovations happening within the industry that's impacting how you develop the solution? Or is it rather the other way around, that you're suggesting innovations to your customers, that they're providing feedback? How does that flow works?
No, you're right. In that industry, it's, let's say they didn't invest a lot on technology. It's more a human relation kind of industry. So more traditional, way more traditional. So bringing technology, it's kind of a challenge. But if you make the technology work for you, or be part of complementary to the fact that they are more people oriented, it works well. For example, it's not there yet, but you could use AI or Copilot in a few years from now and do the interview with the family, and then really focusing on your interview, and Copilot will fulfill the whole contract. Because basically, if you ask the whole question, you're going to have all the answers. And at the end, looking back to your screen and saying, by Copilot, please, we don't have this information, and this information, and finalize the interview. So it will be way more human, because your focus is on discussing with the family, and Copilot will do the writing job of the whole contract, basically. Yeah. Again, we're not there yet, or maybe we will be there yet in a few months or a few weeks from now, but it's some stuff like that we could easily imagine.
Yeah, so that's about automation.
Yep.
Now, my layman gut feel is like, hey, the opportunity for your business is huge. From a sales perspective, is that something, and I'm looking at Eric here, is that something that can be automated? Meaning, I don't know how many funeral homes there are in the US, but I think it must be massive. But is the sales process, can that be automated, that people can download your solution, try it, or a guided download and a guided tour, or is it via videos and they buy it almost automatically, and then they buy 5 hours of consulting? Or can you share a bit about that, how that sales process works?
Well, I think that you must have been in our team meeting last week, because that's our secret sauce. So I don't know how you came up with that, but that's exactly the vision of the company. Benoit's vision for sure is to automate, because the only way we truly can scale and contain costs as ISV or as a VAR is to automate a lot of those processes. Here's the challenge: the customer. You have to have a sophisticated enough customer to understand and adopt. So you will have the 5-10% of the bell-shaped curve, right? High adopters, early adopters who will jump right on it, right? So you'll get your value there. But the 66% in the middle of the bell curve will be the ones that you still may have to put a mechanism in place to touch. The death care space is a very hands-on space. It's a very people-focused, people-first space. So they haven't quite bothered into buying. This is a business technology. We aren't downloading a movie or music. People are running their lives on this. So as elementary as it may be to a VAR or to a technologist, to our customers, we have to always understand that this is their livelihood. Whether they do 100 contracts a year or 100,000 contracts a year, we're asking them to trust us with their pocketbook, with their business. And with that comes a deeper relationship that's necessary. But to your point, yes, a lot of those mundane, routine, upfront processes can be automated on the back end as the market matures and grows. And we see the divergence in older funeral directors exiting the business, and you have younger, let's say under 40.
Of course, younger generation. Yeah.
Right. They will be more ready and more acceptable to it.
Yeah.
Our challenge is we still have to drive revenue while that transition takes place.
Yeah, I hear you.
And just a point from here, it's We have kind of two versions of the Funeral 65 application. So the one version for also more classical BC implementation, where you speak with larger companies, 100 or 500 million in revenue, and then they have many homes, and then it's a corporation where you manage the whole centralized procurement, and then you manage all the contract itself, doing statistics and stuff like that. So it's an implementation of, let's say, 1 year, 18 months, and then rollouts. But you also have those independent homes that have the same requirement. So basically, we build the express version where it's mainly you start with contract. So you don't have to implement the whole financial and everything. So less configuration. So you start with the contract was pretty similar. All the contract form for every state has been designed, so they are ready to start right away. Again, this training with Copilot where they could learn and transfer knowledge on the product itself. And then if they want to move a little bit further, then they could have the planning. So they just add new module and stuff. And then if they want the whole financial system, it's still sitting on BC, just that we limit the access by security. So basically, if they just use the contract itself, they have access to the configuration of the items and tasks because they have to run those contracts. But if they want to use the whole package, so basically everything is already sitting on project, so you just open the doors for
the other modules
and everything works out of the box. So basically the goal is to get high volume of those customers, working with partners who are already in this industry since years, and then build the whole network of funeral homes, funeral services, care services, crematory services, and everything. So we have both the goal of working with those large consolidators looking for an integrated solution, and with smaller home with turnkey solution.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
Benoit, Eric, sorry, Jean-François, please go ahead.
Okay. Well, Eric was talking about new adapter, and I think when we every time we go to a new convention, there's always that event for funeral director under 40. I think it's under 30 or under 40. I think. So there's a generational switch in the industry. So the younger person are coming into the industry, and more and more women than men also. There's a change in that way, and they are more with time. They are more open with new technology. So we are, I think, at the right place in time for that. Yeah,
super interesting. Time is flying, Benoit, Eric, Jean-François. So I'm going to ask you all the last question, and I invite all to share your perspective. So you are a Microsoft partner. You're using Dynamics. Now, if Microsoft should do or could do one thing that would improve your business, your revenue, your customer ads, and that could also help other ISVs like Funeral 365, what should Microsoft do, or what could Microsoft do to enhance your business? Benoit, let's start with you.
So I would say that we are pretty well served with Microsoft, to be quite frank, because looking at those companies, a few of those consolidators are public company, and the fact that we're sitting on the Microsoft product with all the security around the SaaS product, it's really a key on our solution. In fact, we also got a lot of support. We are VAR since 20 years, then we turned to ISV. We have about 25 developers, so we work all the code and everything. The process was pretty straightforward to go to AppSource, by the way, to get certified and everything. And then from there, we have a good platform, to share those opportunity with other people in the community, other VAR and stuff like that, to publish it. So with that platform, Microsoft helped a lot in terms of sales, to publish really the product itself. Opportunity like we have today with your webcast, podcast, bringing this information to the community. It's also really good. So we feel like good support from Microsoft so far. Eric?
Okay. Great. Thank you, Eric, Benoit, for that feedback. Eric, I'm gonna go. Well, how I see here, everyone, Benoit, Eric, the clock rounds. What's your perspective on what Microsoft could or should not do?
Yeah, 100% agree with Benoit. Obviously, man, I started selling Microsoft products in the mid '90s from the early days, so I'm definitely seeing the company grow. I think from a corporate perspective, for Microsoft to continue to just create awareness at the executive level at marquee events as they're doing, to continue to trust. One thing that we found in our conversations that when we say we're built on Microsoft, that ends a lot of questions that you would normally have about the quality and the sustainability of the product. Because remember, for the death care space, this is a long-term investment. They don't change every 2 or 3 years. They keep this sometimes forever, for the lifetime. So the advantage Microsoft provides with the money they're spending in development and continued development improvement, this marketplace will be well served by it. Secondly, I would say for the partners, to continue with projects like yours, with your podcast, for partners to be aware. One of our strategies to understand in the death care space, who are the partners that have customers that are on Great Plains or that are on BC that we can work with more quickly. Obviously, costing language can become a factor as you cross international borders better. I think Microsoft's doing a great job at all of that.
Well, thank you, Eric, for that feedback. Jean-François.
Well, I'm the less technological guy here, so I would say in a funeral perspective, what I think Microsoft, well, I'm sure Microsoft is already doing this, but security is a huge point for these guys. And Microsoft is doing a great job and should keep doing that because it's a huge point for the security of the data. They have a lot of personal information about the client and everything. And that's a point that we bring when we meet new client, that we say we use the Microsoft technology, the Microsoft reputation. So please keep doing that. We see everything happen once a while with a bank or with something, they lost the data or they. Yes, so security is certainly a big challenge.
Great. Thank you for that, Jean-François. Indeed, I'm going to repeat myself, but time flies when you're having a good conversation. This was really, for me at least, I learned a lot about your business. Thank you very much, Benoit, for sharing all your insights, how you're building the business. Eric, from a sales perspective, how you're scaling the business. Jean-François, from a technology perspective, also learned during this call about your investments into Copilot. Looking forward to see the results. Hope to see you one day face to face, maybe in Montreal or Atlanta, Detroit, Eric, or maybe my preference in Florida. Thank you very much again, Benoit, Eric, Jean-François. Have a very good day and talk very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.